A tensor is something that transforms like a tensor. It doesn't tell me anything. Check on YouTube if there's something more, because like, come on. I'm still not really clear, like, all of it is so technical. Might be a story or something. Oh, there is. Nice.
So, where's that church you and Dory told us about? What? You're taking us to a place we don't even know if it's safe and you're not even sure about how to get there?
I'm doing my best, okay?
Happy, Alexia?
Oh.
Wow, okay. Did not expect that. I love the vibe. It really feels like an old church, but at the same time, a very renewed one because everything seems so perfect. Black and blue is a mismatch though. Makes me want to look away from that dress.
What? No, this dress is white and gold.
Huh? No, this is black and blue, definitely.
Guys, look at this.
Cherry, what happened to you?
This looks good though.
There was an object right there. It had weird inscriptions over it, and some said tensor object. I started to play with it, and I became like this.
Oh damn, there's also some comics going along with them? Cool. Combining this video to these comics is what I did in my bachelor's thesis. When I was introduced to tensors, I was heavily struggling with them. No matter the different definitions I would find, the different videos I would use, I was still struggling with them. I then wanted to create something myself that could help students understand them without it seeming so professional. I designed the scripts, the characters, the environment, and gave them life. I then drew the rest of the story as a comic and went on to test all of it through semi-structured interviews. I selected students from a course in special relativity from my university, 14 agreed, and I asked them these questions. Each question ranks up in complexity about tensors, with question 4 having a contingency question 4a in case of students not being able to answer 4b directly. As you can see, each question also has its own answer key, as in the most complete and precise answer to that specific question. During the interviews, I had a script next to me, making sure that we were following a certain structure, but at the same time leaving enough space for the students to express themselves clearly. After having interviewed them, I transcribed the recordings and started analyzing the data. I kind of felt like a teacher when doing so, because I had to develop rubrics myself to grade the students' answers by comparing them to the answer keys. I really am a teacher, actually. The first rubric was for grading the accuracy of each student's answer. The more of the content from the answer key they stated, the more accurate they were graded. Some answers were surprisingly so well at half of the content that I had to put them in neutral accuracy, which is honestly quite a feat. I designed the second rubric after realizing that some parts of the answer keys related more to the story than to the concept of tensors, having thus less importance regarding their accuracy than other parts. So I designed this rubric. The first step was to break down answer keys in main parts. These main parts were then assigned an importance according to the scale depending on how much they related to the story or the concept of tensors. After this breakdown, I graded the student's answer regarding each of these importance parts on a scale of 0 to 10. This grade was then scaled by a specific coefficient depending on which importance part it referred to. If students were able to make a connection between the words perspective and coordinate system, they were awarded a bonus. If they were able to answer question 4a without needing 4b, they were also awarded a bonus. And if I led them to a relatively good answer during the interview, they lost a point to account for less bias. Now you can see how it turned out. Here you can see the count of accuracy for each question. As you can see, questions 1 and 2 were answered pretty accurately. After that, it's not as precise. Question 3 was widely answered with inaccurate answers, partially probably because this was the first question after being shown the comics, but maybe also because the question wasn't worded perfectly. Questions 4a and 4b were answered pretty well, though there were some inaccuracies. Now, these are the scores computed all together and then ranked. The maximum score was 420 with the bonuses, and the closest one was 352. Combining this graph with this new one, we can see that most of the students didn't have a really good score, and therefore not a really good grasp on what tensors were after seeing the video and the comics. When interviewing students, I started with asking them about their previous experience with tensors, so that I was able to distinguish results between those who had a small experience with tensors and those who had no experience with tensors. Here you can see that the overall average score for the ones with a small experience was higher than without any experience. Whereas here, you can see that the average score per question of each group of experience is quite different. The ones with a bit of experience had much better results on the first questions, but then dropped after question 2 for the more complex questions. This can be interpreted a few different ways. Either because of having been shown the comics, the experienced group had a hard time grasping the information shared. Or since the questions were getting more complex, they started thinking too complicated. The inexperienced group might also have kept their answers based on what was said in the story, therefore using the words and structures targeted in the answer keys. Generally, what can be said from these results is that having a small experience with tensors might help understanding the concept transmitted through the story, but may also complicate the thought process. Additionally, the influence of the story on the understanding of tensors was mildly positive. It can therefore have an impact on students being introduced to tensors, while making the topic engaging and more motivating. One of the main limitations for this project was time constraints. Designing a story with good characters that conveys the exact information needed without causing too much misunderstanding, plus creating the characters, the environment, and animating all of it was very time consuming. This led to not having much time to test the product nor analyzing the results very thoroughly. I also personally knew some of the students, which may have been positive for them to express themselves freely, but they may also have wanted to be nice to me and perform well. Using animations in comics relies also a lot on eyesight, therefore not very inclusive for sight-impaired or colorblind people. That's it for today. Thank you for having watched this video and see you another time. Bye bye!